Yeah, the story how in detail Unity Mitford get in touch with the Führer. This is an interesting one. On October 20, 1934, Unity traveled to Munich in order to study languages. Yeah, I will study German like that. In reality, however, she had only one goal in mind: to meet the Chancellor of the German Reich, Adolf Hitler, the Führer, who was back then in 1934 already the great dictator Führer. And she admired him obsessively. In early February 1935, she finally met him in person at the Osteria Bavaria. It is a restaurant in Munich. It is still today there, the restaurant. It was the restaurant Hitler preferred to be. He liked a lot the climate of this restaurant, the Italian flair, to get there the ravioli, and he liked to spend time there every day. Not every day, but really Hitler often dined, and he often dined there together with his secretary Rudolf Hess. And she knew that, yeah, Unity knew that Hitler will appear at the Osteria Bavaria, so she was every day there. And then finally she met him, and there was an encounter with him, and she said that with a lasting impact. The restaurant Osteria Bavaria, like the name said, Osteria, like it's an Italian restaurant. It was founded not by Italian guy, but in 1819 by Josef Deutelmoser, a classical Bavarian guy. An innkeeper, he was enthusiastic about Italian culture. The Osteria Bavaria was Munich's first restaurant, first Italian restaurant, today known as Osteria Italiana. So you can still have your ravioli there, like maybe at the same place where Adolf Hitler had the ravioli. This was one of his favorite meals. The place, Osteria Bavaria, quickly became in Munich back then a meeting point for bohemian artists and intellectuals. And Hitler was, and back then, in the beginning of the 20s, he was like behaving like a bohemian artist in the first line. And the bohemian artists in Munich, they liked the Osteria there to sit in a southern atmosphere. By combining the name Osteria and Bavaria, Deutelmoser, the innkeeper, wanted to build a symbolic bridge between Italy and Bavaria. We see here maybe almost foreshadowing the later so well-known Mussolini-Hitler axis. So the friendship with Italy, it is here also symbolic with the ravioli eating by Hitler. Hitler often sat there with his confidants, including mainly Rudolf Hess, and they ate the ravioli, as I said, both. For months, Unity tried to be there at every day at lunchtime to attract Hitler's attention, and at the end she succeeded. She sat in such a position that Hitler could have eye contact with her. Yeah, and she was a beautiful, young, blonde, Nordic looking lady. Hitler must have seen her. Hitler invited her to his table at the end. So she said, okay, come over. And this became their first conversation. She described the event in a letter to her sister. After this event, when she first met in February 1935, Hitler, she wrote immediately to her sister the following words. I had just finished lunch when the Führer entered in his lovely, elegant coat and sat down with two men. I was leafing through Vogue when 10 minutes later the restaurant owner came up to me and said, the Führer would like to speak with you. Yeah, Unity was 20 years old at the time, tall, about 1 meter 80. Hitler was a smaller one, 73, 4, I think. Blonde haired and blue eyed, perfectly matching the Nazi propaganda machinery ideal of the Nordic beauty. On February 10, 1935, she wrote to Diana also these following words. You cannot imagine how I feel. I'm so happy. I think I'm the happiest girl in the world. Yeah, but Hitler too watched her with fascination. Unity matched, as I said, the Nordic ideal not only in appearance but also in ancestry. Yeah, she was an aristocrat. The Führer was intellectually impressed also by the fact that Unity came from an old English aristocratic family. Hitler had a peculiar, almost humble respect for the aristocracy. He was surprised to learn that Unity's grandfather, Algernon Freeman-Mitford, had been a personal friend of the composer Richard Wagner, and had translated the antisemitic works of Houston Stewart Chamberlain, one of the authors Hitler revered most and Hitler relied on most. Their relationship immediately, so Hitler and Unity, became emotionally intense. Hitler fell in love, and Eva Braun was pushed in the background for a month. Yeah, she was in the background. Not a good feeling for Eva Braun. Unity regularly appeared at Nazi events as the embodiment of the ideal Aryan woman, and even delivered an anti-Semitic speech at a big Hitler youth gathering. She also published anti-Semitic statements in the Nazi newspaper Der Stürmer, such as this one. I read, please print my full name so everyone knows that I hate the Jews. Yeah, this is one of her statements. Out of a special regard, Hitler provided her with an apartment in Munich. There's no doubt that Hitler was at times a genuine rival to Eva Braun, and that Hitler sometimes even preferred her, maybe emotionally. Unity became a member of the inner circle and, as a special guest, was able to attend the 1936 Berlin Olympics and the Bayreuth festivals, the big events Hitler were there. When Hitler announced the Anschluss of Austria, the annexation of Austria in 1938, Unity stood beside him on the balcony in Vienna in front of a crowd of 250,000 enthusiastic Austrian people, yeah, waving and being enthusiastic about Hitler entering Austria. Yeah, that was. In 1939, there was a problem when the outbreak of war loomed. Unity repeatedly begged Hitler at the Berghof to make peace with England. This was a big problem for Unity. She didn't want that war. And at least this states and records Albert Speer. He said that he knows about that. But Hitler refused. He refused. He refused. At the Bayreuth Festival in the summer of 1939, Hitler warned the Mitford sisters that war between England and Germany was inevitable. When Great Britain declared war on Germany on September 3, the 3rd, 1939, after the invasion of Poland, Unity attempted suicide in Munich on Königenstrasse, shooting herself in the head with a pistol. Yeah, a bullet in the head. She left behind an envelope addressed to Adolf Wagner. He was the Gauleiter of Munich, so the boss of the Munich district of the party. Inside were her party membership. Inside this envelope, there were the party membership badge, a photograph signed by Hitler, and a farewell letter. Yeah, as it used to be at suicide attempts, in which she wrote that she could not bear a war between Germany and England and was therefore killing herself. The shot was not fatal. The bullet remained lodged in her head. It was blocked and not caused death. The doctors did not dare to remove the bullet because there was a danger that Unity would die when the bullet in the head was moving. Yeah, and they had the fear that the British would have suspected murder, that the doctors would be responsible for help for that. Hitler personally visited her in the hospital on November 8 in 1939. It was the same day as there was an assassination attempt made on Adolf Hitler at the Bürgerbräukeller. She was later transported to Switzerland, where her condition stabilized, but she never fully recovered from that. In 1948, at the age of 34, she died in Scotland from the consequences of the gunshot wound. Yeah, the bullet moved. She learned to walk again, yes, but never recovered completely. She became incontinent and had also childlike behavior. Her mother cared for her until the end of her life. Finally, it is worth mentioning a lesser known but intriguing connection between Unity and Rudolf Hess' mysterious flight to Scotland. No, Rudolf Hess were flying to Scotland before the invasion of the Soviet Union to make a peace agreement with England. It was a motivation. Hess sought contacts with British aristocrats who were sympathetic to Germany, and indeed there were several. Some of them have already been discussed in previous episodes, such as Charles Edward, Duke of Saxe, Coburg and Gotha, a member of the British royal family, a grandson of Queen Victoria. We had also mentioned the connection with the aristocrat Houston Stewart Chamberlain, who was also enthusiastic about Adolf Hitler. It is a fact that Rudolf Hess personally knew Unity Mitford and indeed the Mitford sisters. So he had contact with them. According to the British historian Phil Carradine, Hess completely misunderstood the British power structure because of his relationship with Unity. This is quite plausible. Allegedly, because of Unity, Hess believed that the English aristocracy was the true ruling class, and that by appealing to a shared Anglo-German heritage, he could conclude peace. Conclude peace with the aristocrats and make a deal with them. Thus, Unity indirectly contributed, we can say, maybe to Rudolf Hess' flying history, because she was positive about the Nazis, and so Rudolf Hess thought, every aristocrat in Scotland and in England is positive, so I can get a deal there. But we know that the story was not like that. When Rudolf Hess was flying to Scotland on May the 10th in 1941 to offer peace to Great Britain. Yeah, exactly as the Mitford sister had wished, also Rudolf Hess wished that peace. That was everything about this stalker, Unity Mitford. Yeah, we will continue with the story of Hitler's woman. But the deeper we dig, the clearer it becomes, my friends. The subject is far more complex and darker than it appears at first glance. Not to speak about Hitler's sexuality, this is absolutely a mystery up to today. We don't know much about that. Only legend and rumors. Yes, thanks very much and goodbye.